Hello and welcome. This is James Blanchard, Cisneros, at your service. Today I will be reading the December 3rd Facebook post and I will be making a few comments on it, and I trust that it will assist both of us on our journeys. If the video is helpful, please be so kind as to give it a thumbs up. It helps with the listening process and it may help somebody find the video someday. So thank you for that. Here we go. Reducing self-judgment. Today, when the ego insists on self-judgment, we instead remember this one thing, that we are our Creator's creation. The eternal in us cannot be threatened by the illusionary self-judgment games the ego plays in time. For as time is but a momentary blink of eternity's eyes, so too are self-judgments but hopeless, tiny, lonely shadows that cower before the eternal shining light in us. Today, we become examples of our source instead of our shadows. We forgive ourselves our illusions as Source, God, has forgiven ours. Today, we remember that the more we focus on and defend our illusions, our self-judgments, the more real we make them. And so, we do not defend ourselves, not because we are not worth defending, but because there's truly nothing to defend. Today we return to our eternal essence by letting go of the temporal program shadow self and choosing to see ourselves as God's eternal creation, who in truth we are, have always been, and will always be. How do we begin reducing self-judgment from our lives? We're going to go ahead and do a 6-step process for this. First, we're going to realize what a game this idea of self-judgment is. And so, let us remember that God is love, that God is all. And so there's no opposition to God, to love. So self-judgment, it's only an illusion that we have been programmed to believe is real. It's not real. And so in this game of self-judgment, we're going to practice, step number 1 is catching ourselves quicker and quicker. So let's say you have self-judgment A. Self-judgment A is happening, it's happening, then you become consciously aware. That's step 1. You have to catch yourself, you catch yourself. Okay. And there it remains. Self-judgment number 2. It's happening, you're thinking about it, then you remember this exercise, you catch yourself. Okay. So step 1 is simply to catch ourselves. We become self-aware within the present moment that we're playing the ego's game of self-judgment. So we try to catch ourselves quicker and quicker each time. And when we do, we spend obviously less and less time in that energy of self-judgment. Step number 2 is after we catch ourselves, we stop. Step number 2 is to stop investing your time, energy, and focus into that self-judgment. Because as we all know, when we spend time, energy, and focus in this self-judgment, the more time, energy, and focus we spend on it, the more it grows and grows, the bigger part of our life it becomes. And even though it's an illusion, at its base it's an illusion, if we place time, focus, and energy on it, it grows. If we stop placing our time, energy, and focus on it, it becomes smaller and smaller, becomes a small part of our life. Little by little, we stop thinking of it, and it dissolves. And so that's the second part. Second part is simply to stop placing our time, energy, and focus on it. Third point is to remember that within the present moment we only have 2 choices. We can trust in a very narrow view of how our life and the universe life should be. That's the ego's thought system. Or we can trust in God's plan for our life. So we can trust in the ego's plan for our lives, or in God's plan for our lives. When we trust in the ego's plan for our lives, the result of it is self-judgment. Because you see, it's very narrow. The ego has programmed us to believe that only this can happen in our lives. And if this doesn't happen, then if something outside of this happens, then it has us judge ourselves that's not good enough, not worthy enough, not wise enough, not spiritual enough, not what have you enough. And it does this simply to separate you from God. Because if you're all this stuff, if you're not worthy, you're not good enough, you're not wise enough, then you're obviously not a part of God, so you obviously have to be a part of the ego. That's what the ego wants you. It wants you to be self-judgmental. But we will remember that we have another choice, because we've tried this choice plenty of times, and we're starting to find it lacking. What we do is we also have the choice of trusting in God's plan for our life. Trusting that there's someone much wiser than us, who has only our best interest in mind. Someone who, along with our highest self, has co-created this perfect individualized journey just for us. Yours is perfect for you, mine is perfect for me. In the moment, we might not see how perfect it is, but little by little, after we get sick and tired of playing the ego's little game, we start to see how more and more perfect it is. And so, in part 3, we either have those two choices in the present moment. We can trust in the ego's plan for our lives, and when we do that, self-judgment results, and all that comes from that. Or we can trust in God's plan for our life, and when we do that, peace results. Because we understand that there's someone much greater than us taking care of us, making sure that everything's okay, making sure that we do what we need to do at the appointed time, and that we will use it, this life experience, for our own growth, for our own healing, for our own self-development, for our own self-awareness, for our own enlightenment. Step number 4 is forgiveness. Instead of, when we experience self-judgment, we can either not forgive and make this more concrete in our life, not forgive ourselves and not forgive others in that event or situation. We don't forgive ourselves, we don't forgive others, and it becomes kind of like a kidney stone. It remains within you. When you practice forgiveness, you release this concrete starts to become muddy, and then it becomes watery and it starts to dissolve. When every time self-judgment wants to become a greater part of your life, but you instead make the conscious choice to forgive it, to forgive yourself for whatever it is you think you did, to forgive others for whatever you think they did, then that event, that thought process just becomes weaker and weaker, because you're using forgiveness to release, to break the chains from the ego's game of self-judgment. And so the 4th step is simply forgiveness. The 5th step is gratitude. Practice having gratitude for what you went through, because the more you go through self-judgment, the more you see how unalike this energy is to the truth in you. But it was only because you went through self-judgment over and over and over again that you came to a place of self-awareness telling you that this self-judgment is really not me. I'm just not at peace carrying this energy with me. If I build it with my time, energy, and focus, I can also let it go. But it was only because I experienced it over and over again that I finally got tired of it. And so every time you experienced it, you offer gratitude to that time, because that time was part of a process that helped you come into greater self-awareness to realize that you don't need self-judgment. And so you practice offering self-judgment when it comes up, gratitude, forgiveness, and gratitude, because it's simply helping you realize that you no longer need it. And the final step, step number 6, is to offer a prayer for yourself, for that person who believed in self-judgment as real, a prayer for healing, for greater self-awareness, for greater knowledge, wisdom, And you pray for everybody involved in the situation that made you judge yourself. And you pray for their health, for their healing, for their awakening. And you see, when you're praying for that individual, because you are only love, this is your true self, you are love. When you're praying for that individual who's you in the fairy tale, who believes in self-judgment, you're saying to yourself that to that self that believes in the illusion, that she is worthy of removing himself, herself from the illusion. That she is good enough. That she is worthy enough. That she is spiritual enough. That she is ready to awaken. And so you're respecting that self who still believes in the illusion. And you're also showing respect by praying for others, that they too are God's creations. That you are God's creation, even though you're believing in self-judgment. And your brothers and sisters who are in that situation also, that made you judge yourself, are also God's creations. It's just that these individuals just haven't awakened yet. They just haven't experienced the illusion long enough to see that it's not real. But you show them respect. You show all of them respect, because we're all one. And so when you show respect to others and pray for them, when you pray for yourself, that child self that still believes in the ego's game as real, you lift them up from the illusion, and you help break those chains that are keeping them in that illusion, because your higher self is the one who's praying for that self that believes the illusion to be real, because your higher self is connected to God, and it knows you only as your truth. It looks past the ego's games into your true nature, and helps you remember. By doing that, helps you remember who in truth you are. And so when you are blessing yourself and others, you are saying to yourself that you're worthy of being blessed, that you're good enough, that you're worthy enough, that you're wise enough, that you can be enlightened, that you have the wisdom and knowledge. It's all within you now, because in truth that is all you are, and that's all you've ever been. But you chose to play in this little game for a little while, to go through it, and to realize that it's not real. And then when you realize that it's not real, then you can use your life experience to help others realize that it's not real. And so you see everything the ego uses for self-judgment, for chaos, for confusion, for anger, for regret, for stress, for anxiety, for whatever. In the end, it is used for our own good, growth, and development. And because we're all one, it is used for everybody's good, for everybody's growth, for everybody's development. Because each individual journey is sacred. And you're trusting in God, and God's source, and you're remembering that yes, my journey is sacred. And because we're all one, every single person's journey is sacred. And so if my journey is sacred and everybody's journey is sacred, then what's the need for self-judgment? Why do we even need self-judgment anymore? When we remember that there's someone in our corner whose only purpose is our good, who only desires us to remember who we truly are so we can unite again with them consciously, so that we can become consciously aware that we're one with God, that we're one with our brothers and sisters, that we're one with everything, everyone, and all. And self-judgment helped us get to this place. And that's why we offered forgiveness. That's why we offered gratitude. That's why we offered prayers. And when we do, we receive peace. Because peace is our natural state. So today, do not judge yourself any longer. There's no more need for self-judgment. And when you do, it's okay. It's just part of your journey. Part of your journey to become more self-aware. So just catch yourself quicker and quicker. Stop. Spend less time, energy, and focus on it. Trust in God's plan instead of the ego's plan for your life. Forgive. Offer gratitude. And offer your prayers. Show your respect. Be thankful. And I thank you very much for your time. thank you very much for your time. Thank you for being part of this talk, if you will. I love you very much. If you'd be so kind as to like, comment, or share the video, it would help with the listening process, and it might help somebody find this information who can use it someday. If you'd like to leave me a question, I will be delighted to try and offer a response. And if you can please subscribe to my YouTube channel, I would love to have you in that community. Thank you so much again for your time. I love you very much. And God willing, we'll see each other tomorrow. Peace.